Now, diabetes is proving to be a major problem concerning our health, which is mostly due to uncontrolled blood sugar levels. So to further shed some more light on the imbalance of blood sugar levels and some of the preventative interventions that we can put in place is Christine Baxter, who is a nutritional advisor and a health coach. Welcome back. Good to have you here.
Thank you, Michael.
Christine, we hear about blood sugar levels, we hear about the link to diabetes, we hear about it being important that we have good levels, but what is blood sugar level balance that we're now talking about?
Okay, so basically blood sugar, when they look at that, it's how much glucose is in the blood presently, and when insulin reacts on it, how does the body actually manage it?
You mentioned that you're seeing a lot more issues related to blood sugar balance lately. What is the reason for that?
So a lot of it is, the symptoms that people are experiencing that they're coming into my practice with is low energy, low mood, struggling with cravings, brain fog, high blood pressure, as well as difficulty losing weight.
Okay.
And a lot of the times these are your precursor symptoms to showing that there is a blood sugar imbalance.
Right.
And that can normally lead to further developments in chronic disease such as insulin resistance, prediabetes, cardiovascular disease even.
What do we need to look at? What do we need to action and do to get this balance back into play?
Okay, so what is quite interesting about it is some of the misconception behind insulin resistance and prediabetes is that you can only get it if you're eating a lot of sugar, a lot of salty foods, and that's the only way. Okay, it must be full sugar kind of thing, but that is actually not the case. If your diet is high in refined carbohydrates and processed foods, fruit juices, sodas even, that kind of thing, that is going to influence and actually increase your risk of actually developing these conditions. And most of the time, 9 out of 10 people actually struggle with a blood sugar imbalance. So the mechanism that actually goes on behind it is that obviously when we eat food, okay, and when it's broken down into its biochemical state, in this case, say glucose, okay, glucose is obviously the main source of energy for the body. So what happens is when that glucose enters into the bloodstream, it needs insulin, which is produced by the pancreas, to actually open the cells in order for the glucose to go in. But now the problem is when it comes to insulin resistance and diabetes, those cells become resistant to those messaging of insulin, okay? And because the body is designed to survive, it needs to get that blood sugar out, all right? So then what happens is the fat cells say, well, we're open, and then what happens is that extra glucose is actually converted and stored as fat.
Right.
All right, so as much as insulin is needed to open the cells so that the glucose can go in, it's also known as our fat storage hormone. So this is where blood sugar imbalance actually becomes really important when it comes to weight gain, is because the more insulin you have, the more fat it will actually lay down. Okay. And with that actually is where we come across those blood sugar crashes as well as highs, because say for example the more insulin that's being released, the more fat is being laid down. And when you have a blood sugar high, okay, so from eating something that is mainly carbohydrate based, it's going to shoot your blood sugar up, all right? And every time it goes up, it's going to create the body to go into fat storage mode, all right? But what is quite interesting though with having high blood sugar is it can really affect the quality of your arteries and blood vessels, all right? Because the blood with that extra sugar in it almost becomes like a syrup.
Yes, it would make sense.
Okay, so that actually increases the pressure of the blood that needs to get through the vessels, and that is how you actually increase blood pressure.
Okay.
So that is how it's linked to having that imbalance, all right? Whereas where you have a blood sugar crash, all right, that's feeling low mood, low energy, battling to concentrate, that's the body telling you it needs more fuel, but the right fuel. All right, so that's why when you get that balance perfectly in the middle, all right, which we'll discuss now as well, is it's going to really help to make you feel so much better. You're going to feel better than you have in years in terms of energy and health, and it's a fantastic way to lose weight as well in a healthy and sustainable way.
You mentioned 9 out of 10 people deal with this. I mean, that's a huge number of people when you look at, I mean, it's the majority of the population. Why is that such a high number? I mean, shouldn't we be doing more about it?
So the reason it's such a high number is because it can be in different stages. Okay, you can be feeling, the slightest symptoms, but then obviously as time goes by, you've got your factors that increase, the dietary, lifestyle, etc. And I generally see it in my much older clients, because as you get older, remember, when it comes to your health, it's an accumulative factor.
Yes,
okay, that's also why you see cardiovascular disease and obesity in a lot later years as well, and obviously high levels of inflammation, because of the fact that it's that accumulating factor.
Right. So let's talk about some lifestyle factors that we can implement into our lives, or strategies to maintain, well, maybe to get to a point of balance and then to maintain that blood sugar balance.
Okay, so I'll start with dietary, because it's obviously the most important.
Yes.
Okay, so eating according to a blood sugar balancing approach is great, because of the fact that it's going to have an overall effect on your health. It's going to increase your energy, but also it's easy. It's an easy way to follow in terms of how to eat, which makes it sustainable, which doesn't make it a diet. Okay,
or a lifestyle adaptation.
Yes, very much so, and that's what I actually teach in my practice, is lifestyle changes and dietary changes for long-term results. Okay, and the thing is, what really helps with this is, because I use it for weight gain, weight loss as well, is there is no rebound weight gain.
Okay.
All right, unlike diets where you're calorie counting and restricting, you're going to get that weight back. So some great ways of how you actually eat for blood sugar balancing. Number one would be to obviously eat regularly. All right, that means 3 meals a day. Okay, don't skip meals. When you skip meals, that is when you land up with those blood sugar crashes. And so starving yourself to lose weight doesn't work, because the body goes into survival mode.
So it hangs on to everything.
It hangs on to everything, and you want to get your body into fat burning mode and not fat storage. Okay, so basically eating 3 meals per day. You can have a mid-morning and mid-afternoon snack if needed, if you're feeling your energy is dipping, but obviously it's got to be something that is healthy based. So the second step is to actually eat an element of protein with every meal and snack. Okay, so don't eat your carbs naked.
Right.
Put some clothes on them. Okay, so what that means is, so for example, if you're going to have some fruits, like some berries, have it with some nuts. Okay, if you're going to have some veggie sticks, have it with some hummus, things like that. Okay, so basically, like I said, if anything, you wouldn't go out naked, so don't eat your carbs naked.
Can you say with meals, every meal, and any snacks that you have?
Yes, and this is really important, because most times people would say, okay, I'm just going to eat a piece of fruit, I'm doing something healthy, but actually that on its own can spike your blood sugar. You want to pair it with protein, all right, and that is the key there.
Right.
All right. The third step is actually being selective about the amount and type of carbohydrates that you eat. Okay, so what do I mean by that is choosing those carbohydrates that are slow burning in the body. So these are things like oats, brown rice, whole wheat bread.
What we call low GI.
Low GI.
Right.
So the blood sugar balancing actually looks a lot more at what they call the glycemic load. Okay, and that is the amount of carbohydrate that is in a food and its effect on blood sugar. Right. Okay, so it's basically your slow burning carbs opposed to your fast burning carbs, which are like your white sugar, your white flour, things like that. So it's differentiating between those, and obviously being really selective about your portions.
Yes.
Okay. I always use the plate diagram in terms of having a quarter plate protein, having a quarter plate starch, but keeping in mind when we talk about carbohydrates, we're also talking about your starchy vegetables, carrots, butternut, beetroot. Limit those, keep those small, okay, and rather fill your plates up with your free vegetables, your unlimited vegetables, that kind of thing.
Okay, great.
So your lifestyle factors, things that definitely are going to help. So exercise. Exercise allows obviously blood circulation, and also when it comes to weight training, it increases your muscle size in terms of allowing glucose a greater surface area to be absorbed. Okay. So exercise allows you to absorb and actually use glucose a lot better. So they recommend that actually after eating a meal, you should get up and do some exercise. Use that glucose so it doesn't store as fat.
Right.
All right. Watching your alcohol, caffeine intake, things like that. Caffeine specifically, watch out. You should try and keep it down to 1 cup a day, because that on its own can really spike blood sugar levels.
Great.
Yeah.
Christine, thank you so much for sharing that.
And only a pleasure.
Really good that hopefully 9 out of 10 people watching have taken some notice, and we'll implement some of those changes. So thanks for joining us.
Only a pleasure.